last episode of this series. From the previous episode, we looked at how we can log out the user, okay, and we defined a helper function to help us um, query Redis to delete both the access and the refresh token metadata. Now, in this tutorial, we're going to be talking about how we can refresh the token or when the access how we can refresh both the access and the refresh tokens when the access token expires. So we're going to wire up a function called refresh. And remember, we said that the access token is supposed to last for 15 minutes. So in the event that the token expires, we are going to make a request to our server to with the refresh token as a payload to help us generate new pairs of access and refresh token. For me to do that, let's make a tweak first. I observed in our create. Let's head over to our create alt function. Rather, let's look at the create to do. Rather, let's look at create to do. Create to do. All right, here. Now, let me show you something. If you if there's an error while you are trying to fetch an alt, maybe we are trying to validate if the access UUID and the user ID exists in our Redis store, and we return this error here. Let's just test what this should be. Now, in the event where let's fire up our code again. In the event where a user logs out and try to use the same token to create a to-do, let's say the behavior. So let us head over to Postman here. So let's try to create login a user again afresh. So copy this, right? Then we come here and add the token here to create a to-do. We're creating the to-do. Now let's log out this user. We'll log out this user. Okay, user successfully logged out. So now let us try to create a to-do with this same user. Of course, it's not going to work, but I'm not okay with this error we are having here. So I want us to return a very nice error here. This error results in this implementation here. This is what I wanted to show you. So if there's an error, yes, the error is not new, but this error message can be a bit confusing. So let us change this to simply unauthorized, right? So let us use unauthorized instead. So let me shut down the server and run it again and head over to Postman and try to log in again. So we've logged in the user. Let's copy this token. We'll copy the access token and try to create a to-do like so. So we are creating a to-do. Now let's log out this user, adding the access token here. So we are logging out the user. Now let's try creating a to-do again with the same token. Now you can see we are having something more readable and understandable. So we are having unauthorized. So that's the tweak I needed to make there. Now let us go to the business of the day, which is to wire up a functionality for refresh token. All right. So after the logout, I've gone ahead to include the functionality here. Pretty much the same stuff we've been doing all this while. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to define a function that will help us delete only the refresh token. Now, why this? The access token doesn't exist already because it has been deleted. That is after expiration. One of the features that Redis provides for us is when a token expires, since we specify the expiration time, that token is automatically deleted from the Redis store. Now we had to define another function to delete only the refresh token. So I can comment here and say this function deletes only the refresh token, right? Okay, so this function will delete only the refresh token metadata from the DB. Why do we need that? We'll need that here in this refresh function. Now what this function does is we define a map of key string and value string, an empty map. Then we are going to bind whatever we get from the user's input. Now what the user is going to be imputing here is a request body that have the refresh token and the value of the refresh token. This is what I mean. Let's head over to Postman now and hit this route. Maybe by running the function you get a better understanding of what I'm trying to say. I've also included it in our routes, you can see. So the path is /refresh. So let's start our server. Let's start our server now. Let me shut down and start again. Let's start our server. Then we'll need to log in a user. Once we log in a user here, we'll need to get his refresh token. We'll get his refresh token and go to this endpoint and replace this one with the one we just created. Then once we click this, you can see that we are generating a new pair of access and refresh token. Now this is what I want to show you, the payload. You can see the payload is the refresh token and the value of the token. So that was why we defined a map that has the key as a string and the value as a string. Now we are going to check if this if whatever the user is giving us conforms to this, right? So if it does, if it does not, we will simply return, let's not return that error. Let's just return invalid JSON, right? So we are returning an invalid JSON to the caller. So if not, we are going to have we are going to get the refresh token from this map, right? So after getting that, let's now start verifying the token. We check the algorithm used to create the token. So if there's an error, we return the error here. Then we are now checking for the refresh token. Now one of the errors that might likely happen after we've checked if the token is valid is the refresh token must have expired. So if there's an error in this entire process, we are going to return refresh token expired, because oftentimes than not, that is the error that results if we could not validate this token. So the next thing we'll check is we'll now check if the token is valid or not. So if it is not valid, we return the error. I always like returning, no, this is supposed to be you could say returning unauthorized here, right? Returning unauthorized here. I think this is pretty neat. So we'll now check the claims from the valid token. If everything goes well, we'll get the refresh UUID. So when we get the refresh UUID from the token, we're now going to get the user's ID also. So when we get the user's ID, we are now going to call the function we defined above, that is the delete auth, this one here. We're going to call this function to remove the refresh token first of all from the DB. So once we remove the refresh token from the already store, we are now going to create new pairs of access and refresh token by calling the create token function. So when we do that, if there's an error, we return the error. For consistency, we could just return unauthorized, like so. So if you're unable to create the token, you could just return the same error instead of that. So you can say unauthorized, like so. Cool. So when we're able to create the token, we'll now go ahead to save the token metadata in our ready store and return an error if there is any. So once that is done, we are now going to return both the new pairs of access and refresh tokens to the caller. So we'll now return status created, then the tokens. Then if we could see the initial if statement here, we checked if the token is valid. If the token is valid, we go ahead and perform this whole stuff. But if not, we are going to return a status unauthorized with the response of token expires, that is the refresh token is expired. So let us try this right now. We are now ready to try things out in Postman, how to refresh token. One of the first things I would like you to do is I would like you to adjust the expiration time for the access token to something very close. Let's say 15 seconds. Remember the original implementation have 15 minutes. So head over to the create token function, change the time for the expiration of the access token to 15 seconds, just like as I've done here. This is in order to really demonstrate that once the access token expires, we can use the refresh token to generate a new pair of access and refresh token. So let's fire up the server, right, and try that on Postman. So we're going to come here and log in the user again. So when we log in the user, we have the access token that lasts only for 15 seconds. Let's try and use that to create a to-do. Hopefully it does not expire. Create a to-do. So we fire this request. You can see we are creating a to-do with the access token. Now let's give it a minute, no, not a minute, some few seconds, and try it again. Now you can see that the token have expired, so it's returning unauthorized. So this is the perfect time we can use the refresh token now to generate a new pair of access and refresh token. So let's copy it and come to here and remove this guy and replace it with this. Now you could see now we are creating a new set of access and refresh token. Now to prove that everything works, let's copy this new access token, head over to the to-do and try to create a new to-do with this access token. Now you can see that it's working. So we have the to-do created for us. I want to show you something else too. Let's test our validation about this refresh token. What if a user passing a wrong refresh token? Let's say we add a gibberish here, right? So let's try this request again. You can see we are having an error here. It says refresh token expired. This is not the error we should have here. So let's go back to our code and modify the error message. Let me show you where this error is coming from. It's coming from here where we said if there is an error, it just had coded this error here. So let's just say refresh token is invalid. Refresh token is invalid, something like this. Okay, even if the token have expired, we should return this error. I think it's more readable compared to what we have there. So now let's restart our server and try the request again. Once when an invalid refresh token is passed, let's try it again. So try this request again. So I think we have something more better here. So now let us log in the user all over again. This will not still work. This will not work because this token has already been used before to generate an access and a refresh token. So let's try to log in the user again and copy the refresh token just to prove that things work as expected. So we are going to add the refresh token here as a payload. Alright, so this should generate a new pair of access and refresh token for us when we fire the request. You can see, so we have the access token and the refresh token. So this is about creating a JWT for your Golang application. I believe you've enjoyed the series thus far. If you have any comments, any suggestion, if you observe any typo or anything I didn't do right, please kindly comment so that I can fix it. So thank you very much for watching, and I promise to bring more videos your way very soon. Don't forget to subscribe, like and share this video. So thanks for now and have a nice day. Bye.